My name is Becky Mater. Thank you for watching. This is my presentation on the use of social media in education. So first off, a little bit about the demographics in the study. A few key points to note. There were a lot of people randomly surveyed, only 1,284 responses. One thing I noticed about that was they were about 3/4 female, 1/4 male, predominantly the ages of 35 to 54. So that was 57%. So a majority of the people fell into that age group. The others were kind of scattered sporadically. So mostly they were experienced educators. 42 of them had 21 plus years of experience in education. They were again mostly a suburban population, and the subgroups noted were librarians, teachers, and principals. So looking at those results and the conclusions, the librarians seem to be the most proactive, followed by teachers, then principals. Facebook is the most utilized social media platform, and what it turned out is that most of them use it for connecting with family and friends, but also do use it for professional networking. So most of the responses indicated a need for them to keep their personal and their professional accounts separate. So webinars, YouTube, search engines, Wikipedia, those were the most widely used in the classroom. I was kind of surprised at that point as I was looking over it that Twitter wasn't in there, but I did see Twitter a little bit later, and we'll talk about that. So those who did not grow up as digital natives, they feel overwhelmed by the time it takes to incorporate technology. And I wonder if that's just that it's not as much of a normal part of their day. It seems intimidating, perhaps. But I think that's something to work on a mind shift there with seeing how you can trade time to make time. And it's maybe not a time issue, that's just their perception. So they do understand its importance, and they have concerns about privacy and liability. They felt strongly that they need more training, and then also that restrictions are needed, but that what is in place now seems too strict, and it's too limiting as far as what they could do with it in their classroom. So talking about the inappropriate use of social media, I think it's important to strike a balance. So the policies have to be clear, flexible enough to accommodate the new trends, but specific enough to address scenarios that may arise. So work with the Director of Communications is one suggestion there. Adopting the mindset of empowerment that I kind of spoke about a minute ago. Bridging that disconnect between intent and reception. Focusing on the behavior, the outcomes, rather than the particular technology that you're using. And that's something that I have noticed in talking with a lot of principals. Some people use technology just to use technology, or just they feel good about the fact that they got some technology integrated. But if we really focus on the behavior and the task and the goal, what we're really trying to accomplish with our kids, and then utilize technology that way, that's real, full, true integration. So the last thing listed there is just treat others with respect, embrace teachable moments, and move forward. So some subsequent actions of the affected district from the article and the information shared there. One thing to do is organize a social media task force. And one thing I found interesting about that is they were talking about focusing on the yes. So instead of all the things that you can't do, focus on what you can do and really emphasize that. Allow the teachers to override the firewalls for educational purposes. I think that's really important that we trust teachers. And I know that we also have to have some things in place, consequences, or maybe even proactive supports there. But if we could allow teachers to override those firewalls and really trust them with that, I think that we would encourage them to take some risks there, maybe even not uncalculated risks, healthy risks, but maybe try something they hadn't tried before. They wouldn't be able to use that as an excuse to not move forward. So I think that would be something that could have a really big impact. Take a stand when off-campus use impacts the instructional day. I've seen that in action, even at the elementary level, and I think it's really important to consider that. Provide the training and the time for implementation. I think since that was noted as a major concern, just really emphasizing that time for implementation and helping them to see how to use that effectively and efficiently. Communicate openly and with transparency. Ensure that the clear policies have visibility. Those two really kind of go together. Then working with the community to promote appropriate use of social media and technology. I think that's a partnership absolutely worth exploring and continuing to strengthen. And then embrace the mindset of empowerment is the last one listed there. So some thoughts on integration and plans to prevent similar issues. We need to focus on the big three, in my opinion: the privacy, the separating the personal and professional information. That's a big concern for them. Lack of time. So I have some ideas and some solutions for that. I think it's doable. And then the restricted access would be the other thing to focus on there. So encouraging the authentic audiences, this is where I was going to talk about Twitter, professional learning networks and opportunities to connect. Just personally, I've found that to be huge. I started a Twitter account for my students, and they were able to post some writing samples, just some of their work, and they had an authentic audience. It was really cool. It had a really big impact. And then just for me professionally, Twitter is a huge learning network for me to not only get to know people, but resources and building connections and things like that. Then working in collaboration with the Director of Communications. So we would want to consider a task force, and that task force could focus on those big three: the privacy, the lack of time, and the restricted access. Offering incentives, planning professional development, recognizing the greatness. And I think that's where Twitter can come into. In our district, a lot of accolades are tweeted out, and I think that recognition is pretty great. And then promote the risk taking that I mentioned earlier, the calculated, kind of healthy sort of risk taking. And then be comfortable supervising people. So, I mean, what we need to do is just treat them with respect, embrace those teachable moments, and move forward together. So one thing I was just going to note, as far as working with the Director of Communications, we have an award-winning Director of Communications. She's amazing. And we've really tapped into her as a resource and had her help us out with some of the things I mentioned, like the tweets that help recognize greatness and those authentic learning audiences, the professional learning networks. She's been a huge resource, and I'm sure that in every district there's someone who can be that person and help bridge those connections. So that's my presentation. Thank you for watching. See you later.